out. We are going to get started. I'm going to start with some light housekeeping while everyone else comes in. I want to say thank you all to coming to our session today. We know it's post-conference madness, so we appreciate you taking out the time to come listen to our chat. And also a big thank you to our CMA founders, the CMA and ERP software blog, as well as the partner marketing group. They help us keep the lights on and make sure that we are able to keep these sessions free for you. Like always, I'm going to ask you guys to ask questions. Put them in the chat. Come off mute. I know this would be even crazy. Just come on video, say hello. But if we're camera shy, no worries. Just put them in the chat and we will get to them. Michelle and Anya will be monitoring the chat because, for me, doing two things at the once is hard. So if I don't get to your question right away, they will get to it and poke me to stop the call as we're going through it. For those of you who forgot why we're here, this is what we're going to be talking about. What happens when the marketing budget shrinks? We have heard this is happening a lot in our industry as things happen in the overall economy and such, and it all becomes cyclical. But we need to know what happens when how to deal with it, what should we do, and what to do when this tough times happens. So I'd like to introduce the three people who will be on the call today. So the Katies, Katie from Boyer and Katie from HSO, as I've rebaptized them for this session, as well as Jacob. So Katie from HSO, why don't you start by introducing yourself?
Yes, so happy to be here today. I know that budget is top of mind. And so real quick, I'm a senior growth marketing manager here at HSO. This is a new role that I've been in since end of last year, but been at HSO for 5 years now within the marketing department. So super excited just based on those different roles to have this conversation today.
Thank you, Katie. And Jacob, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. My name is Jacob. I'm the partner marketing manager here at Fidesic AP. I've been at Fidesic for about 3.5 years, doing partner marketing for about 1.5. And yeah, we're a smaller ISV, so like budget is like very top of mind and very important. So it's always important to be like lean and scrappy when you can. So excited to be here.
And thank you. And Katie, last but definitely not least, from Boyer, if you can introduce yourself.
Sure. Yep, I'm Katie Erickson. I am with Boyer and Associates. We're based in Minneapolis. I've been here about 10 years now. When I started, I was the only part-time marketing person, and now we have a team of three. So yay, I have help. But same as everybody else. Lean times mean you gotta figure out what to cut and what's priority.
So there was a me in team, there was an I in team for a long time. So happy to have you. And I think for all those on the call, if you are a team of one, that definitely this will resonate with you as well, because scrappy marketing, oh, that didn't fit as a title, but that's kind of what we're going to be talking about today in more detail. So let's kick it off with when budget cuts hit, what is the first thing you stop doing and why? I think what's the easiest to cut? Is there something in your mind that you're like, this is an easy, okay, thanks, bye? Or is there something that you can put on pause more easily than others? So, Katie from HSO, why don't you kick us off?
Yeah, when we go into budget planning, Q3 of the previous year, um, one thing that I always love to add are options to be creative and more experimental. Unfortunately, when we have to start chopping the budget, if we haven't done those already, like Q1, Q2, those are usually the easiest things that I can remove from my budget. Mostly because there were like the want to haves, the nice to haves. So without being able to like track like a history of ROI back to them or like pipeline influence, they're usually where I would start to remove.
That's very fair. And one kudos on having a slush fund to begin with. I think everyone needs to have that little money on the side that they can play with. So I'm going to take it the other way and go, yay, that you have that budgeted in from the beginning, because I think people
100%.
forget too easily to have that mad money on the side that we can play with, if, but easily cut as well. So, Jacob, what do you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So I usually start by looking at activities that create visibility, but not necessarily like a measurable pipeline impact. So that doesn't mean like cutting brand entirely, but it does mean like being more honest about like what's actually influencing opportunities like partner engagement and revenue. So a few questions that I ask myself, is this tied to pipeline creation or acceleration? Are sales teams and partners actually using it? Or when do we notice that this disappeared for 90 days? And if the answer to those is no, it's probably the first thing that gets paused. So an example of that is I keep like a budget for each of our events and like our sponsorships and like how much we spend at each event. So if we didn't really get like as much like a measurable pipeline at like an event, probably like overdue sponsorship or like maybe like just like it would be worthwhile to just table the event and just like I mean like table, I mean like just like attend the event but not actually sponsor and just like have a couple of like partner meetings and stuff. So I definitely just like look at ways that like we can reduce our like event budget and as well as just like LinkedIn advertising and stuff like that. So it's just like if it doesn't tie back to pipeline, it usually gets paused. So all that to say.
I think that is a great idea, especially since events have become, the tidal wave. They are very pricey in what we have to do with them, and we kind of forget all these little extra gotchas that come in. So I think being honest with ourselves, that the truth will always be set free. So I like that, in being honest on what is actually driving pipeline. And Katie from Boyer, what do you guys look at the first things as that get cut from your budget?
Well, I'm hearing you guys talk about Dynamics Con, and I'm so jealous because that was most definitely one of the first things that got cut for us was you can't show that you got in, millions of dollars of leads from those events. No, you don't get to go. Well, okay, I get it. That's,
Mm,
branding is a little bit more of a fluffier one to be able to show the ROI. And, when our leadership team is ERP, consulting, accounting type of people, they want to see those straight numbers. So for us, it's really easy. Okay, is it bringing in leads? Is it bringing in money? Is it generating that revenue that we need? If not, then that's kind of what's first on the chopping block for us. So events are starting to trickle their way back in a little bit, which is
mm,
exciting. And then another one that was an easy one for us is we had for a while been doing some Google ads, nothing expensive at all, pretty minimal, but it was a pretty easy cut to be like, you know what, we're not getting anything from this. And even the little bit of extra traffic that we were getting, we decided, okay, let's pause it for a while and see what happens. And what we discovered is nothing happened. It didn't matter. Yeah, we were getting a little bit less traffic, but it had no impact on the bottom line because it was really low intent traffic. So for us, that was easy.
I think that
Yeah, I've
proves
also
that.
noticed the same about Google Ads. So yeah, to second your
Oh.
point, yeah.
Mhm.
Very interesting. I was going to say that proves that marketing is a science and an art, because we have to track these things as much as it sounds like a good idea. But when we actually look back at where our lead attribution is coming from, it might not make sense for our business models. So I think that's a good reminder for us to really track where things are coming from, because as we're all in ERP, we work with a lot of accountants, and they want you to show me the money in the end. So I definitely think that's a good reminder too to all of that. So how do we do more with less, especially in this new AI world? We've talked a lot about, oh, well, the bots will do it for you. And um, what's become a must do versus a nice to do versus a pause? We've kind of already touched upon that with Google Ads. Is there anything else that you're doing that, how do you prioritize in general? what makes the A list and versus what gets the pause list. So Jacob, why don't you kick us off?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I would say like in the must-do category, it's just like things that are like directly tied to pipeline, like partner engagement, customer retention, or like strategic launches, like with like partnerships, like whether that be ISV or VAR partnerships, and then like the nice to have things are like just like valuable, but like harder to connect to outcomes. So just like branding, just like attending events, and just like and then a pause. It's just like activities that like consume time, but like with in budget, like without like clear influence. So it's just like I guess in the Microsoft channel specifically, I look closely at like partner momentum. So if like partners stop talking about you, like pipeline usually follows a few months later. So yeah.
No, that's so true. It's like it's to have that delicate balance to our our lead cycles or sales cycles are so long to begin with. It takes a while for us to really notice it, but when we notice it, it kind of hits hard. So it's definitely good to keep on top of that. Uh, Katie Erickson, how do you prioritize things?
I think we focused a little more not on necessarily getting rid of things, but on rotating. So, like I
Mhm.
mentioned, for a while, I was kind of the only one doing marketing. Well, that doesn't work so well if you've got, 10, 20 other people who all want marketing. Well, so what we kind of did is, okay, this month I'm going to focus on, an email program. Maybe next month I'm focusing on website design and SEO stuff. And then the next month focusing on something else. And so kind of just rotating those priorities a little bit so that nothing gets completely cut out. I think is one big thing that worked well earlier on. Now that we've got a little bit more help, it's a little bit easier. And now it's a little bit more about, okay, what technology might we have that is a nice to have but is pricey? Some of those ones like Hootsuite or Riverside webinars, some of those things are really nice to have, but also kind of get really pricey really fast. And so justifying, again, going back to those numbers, the ROI, is this saving me enough time to actually make it worth the cost, or is this one that I can live without? I'll have to do a little harder work, or maybe not. Maybe I can use AI to help me with it, right?
Mm. Oh no, I think I'm hearing, let's be honest, like we all like those fancy tools, but do we need them? It's like I would like an Audi, but my Honda drives just fine. So I think it's kind of that same concept of okay, what do we really need when we're looking at bootstrapping? And also a good point of like keeping your lights on. Like how do we keep that coverage going, even though there are certain dips in our time. Let's be honest. So having the just have a little bit everywhere, that could be a good way to keep the lights on but not have to worry too much about things. So um where how do you measure what's still working when you're spending less? I think we have to do a little math, but are there other signals that we have to watch out for? um is there anything that we should be looking at more closely to be worried of, like if we close the faucet just a little bit? Katie from HSO, do you have anything that you look at or any signals you keep in mind?
Yeah. So probably a couple larger triggers that we would look at would be make it like monitoring our conversion rates, right? It's
Mhm.
like we're always doing that, but paying extra attention to making sure, you know, how are how are we converting from an MQL to an SQL, right, to an opportunity, and making sure that our marketing efforts are still moving people through that funnel, that
Mhm.
there we are, focusing more on maybe we've had to alleviate some programs, but we're still focusing on like quality over quantity. So we're still helping to generate that pipeline. And anything when you're in like a budget constraint, like all your efforts, like whatever you're focusing on, there is that, that watchful eye on, okay, like there is a hard ROI associated to that activity, right? But there's also, and it's like key, but that pipeline, like the attribution. So all that marketing effort that you're doing, whatever that is that you're keeping like tabs on that, tracking everything from a marketing standpoint. Um, so yeah, I would say just keeping um, an eye on your conversion rates and knowing that maybe you've had to offset or, restructure some of your programs or pause them for a period of time. But as long as you're still seeing like an impact to the pipeline, you're still seeing things convert, you're still seeing, business close, I would say that you're still being able to have that impact, right? So.
Yeah. And what I'm hearing is you have to have that open conversation too. Like, hey, you cut my budget. This is what you should be expecting. Yes, we can still match our conversion rates because that shouldn't change regardless of how many we are. Like, it'll affect how many close in the end, but our closing rates shouldn't have any impact on that. So that conversation of, hey, we might not have as many top, but we should be able to have that predictability still. And when we don't, that's when we know, oh, we have to tweak something. So,
Yeah.
um, science and an art. I'm getting in my keywords today, so we'll keep going with that. So, do you have like your sacred cows? Like, what do you do to protect those? Events or activities that are really important to you, that are the gold star events that you absolutely have to go to or keep creating. How do you prove that by keeping those, or you keep them from like someone taking them away from you? So the Katie's, this one's for you. Let's start with Katie from Boyer. Is there anything you do to protect your events or your activities?
Um, well, I think at Boyer, it's a lot about thinking creatively and trying to get alternate funding sources, right? You don't necessarily have to focus on, oh, shoot, what do I have to cut? What do I keep?
Mm.
Also, how do I bring in some more money? So, a couple things that we've done is bring in sponsors. So for a while, probably pre-COVID more so, we were doing in-person client events and we would bring in an ISV, a third-party tool that we thought would be useful for our customers, right? It has to be the right ones, not just something that you actually care about, you think your partners are going to care about. But we would get them to help us pay for lunch in exchange for, hey, you can do a presentation in front of our customers. And that was one way we could bring in money. Another big one that we've leaned into, which I know is a little bit controversial, is the Microsoft funding sources, because they can be a pain, right? Like the BC immersion claims, the co-op claims, the MCI claims. They take so much work, but they are so much worth it because they really do affect that bottom line. They help you bring in the money to help pay for those activities that are high priority, that are going to generate the leads that you need. So I think that's kind of key. And then the other thing that we keep in mind a little bit is pausing. It doesn't, Jacob mentioned this a little bit as well. It doesn't necessarily have to be hey, we're cutting this entirely. It can be okay, we need to pause this for a few months because we know our business is going to ebb and flow, right? Well, maybe in 6 months we'll be able to get this back. Can we live without it for that long? Okay, yep. Then let's, do that and focus on those higher priority ones. Again, going back to those ROI, what are the ones that we really want to make sure we keep?
That's fab. Everyone, I hope you're taking notes on this. But yeah, like finding ways to get other revenue streams to support. And there's no such thing as a free lunch. So yes, those Microsoft Co-op dollars. Take time to get them going, but once you have them, it really does make a difference and really helps you support that marketing effort, and so you don't have to stop the machine. And I don't think everyone out there knows that there's money to be had and how to go get it. So go check your MDF funds when you have a chance. Katie from HSO, what do you do
Yes.
to protect your high intent?
Well, I would love to second the take advantage of any MDF funding and co-op funding that you have available. Definitely take advantage of that. And then one thing that we've also done similar to Boyer has been attempting to offset costs, right, by bringing in ISVs as well. So it could be similar to what Katie had mentioned around helping to sponsor a lunch and you can present to our, that base, or it could be sponsoring a larger event and then you have access to those customers that are there. So that's certainly an approach that we have taken. And then when it comes to like events, for instance, that, you don't want them removed from the chopping block necessarily. It's just making sure that you identify each like the objectives of going to these events. Make sure everyone is on board with those. So maybe it is more of like a branding event, right? And those ones can be like at more risk. But if ahead of time you already aligned on the objective that it was a branding event, then it probably accomplished that goal, right? Maybe it shouldn't be removed, as opposed to maybe like a high yielding ROI event that like it's like that one really needs to show like an ROI versus we're just going there for visibility and brand. So just making sure that your team is aligned on the objectives of going, to these events because they are at a high cost. And then just again, document everything. Like get your team together and document like who everyone talked to, the conversations that were had, the follow-up plan, like get everything you can out of these events. Like make it worth the money. Like you're going, you were able to get the budget. Like, yeah.
No,
So
I think everyone needs to find their sugar daddy or sugar mama. I don't discriminate. That's able to help you support you on these events. And I think what I'm hearing as a common thread is let's be honest with what our objectives are from the jump. And if everyone is open and honest, we know what we're doing. And we're not just, going just to roll the dice in Vegas. We're going with an objective and we're going with a reason why we're going to these things. So, yes, everyone, I hope you're taking notes. We do have a question that came in. So Miss Kate Coffee Bacon asks, do you see those Gold Star events shifting at all? So are all events created equally? Have you seen a shift in how are you're going to market? Um, anyone, anyone has some, I have thoughts, but I'll let you guys kick it off. Okay, I'll start. I'll break the ice, and then if you guys want to add something later, I definitely see them shifting. I also see that people don't want to be sold to in the same way. Whereas 20 years ago, when I was the booth babe and I use the term booth babe very, very lightly, when I was sitting in the booth and people would come talk to me, people would come to these expo halls wanting to learn and wanting to get that information, whereas I'm getting less of that vibe now. For me, it's more the people in the room or the people who are going to be attendants that I can sit around a table with, rather than who's going to come talk to me. I think what I also heard is that a lot of people have to go get them and bring them to the booth for a demo. So there's a definite shift there. So um, they are not all created equally. I don't know about the people on the call if you're feeling the same way or any of our panelists. I saw some head nods, so either being very nice or I'm on the right track. I don't know if you guys kind of feel the same way.
I would second that. I think there's certainly conversations, right, that happen at the booth. People walking by that will stop, but it's more you know, maybe you have sessions or something else going on at the event and that's like your home base, right? Your booth if you have one. You kind of can bring people back throughout, the week. So yeah, that's like the benefit, right, of like almost that investment. Um,
But
yeah, I
yeah, I
will.
could. Okay, good. Sorry.
Oh no. Um, Yeah, I was gonna say I've actually, as much as it's interesting because when it comes to like events, as much as we're like, oh yeah, we're at HSO, I know we do like a lot of events, a lot of
Mhm.
in-person events, and I always think, okay, there's gonna come to a point where we are just going to have to like pause some, right, for like the year, skip that. But what I actually am seeing, even though we have many, we're having budget conversations right now, even is there's like ones that are being prioritized, ones that almost I didn't expect. And we're making um there's actually more events coming into the picture, which I feel is interesting. So yeah, it seems like okay, like just yeah, not what
Well,
I would
Yeah.
expect. Yeah.
no, no, totally. And I think that pendulum shift from, us being cooped up and only seeing from my neck up to like, oh my goodness, I can be set free and like go see people. I think we have to find that balance. But um I think the need for more events is people like us in marketing who are like, well, this isn't working. How about we try this? And I think we're trying to find that balance between them on how which ones work. And I don't think they're going away, but to your point, looking at them differently. Okay, how do I have a session or how does this activity tie back to my home base where we used to use maybe my age is showing a little more here as the very elder millennial, but I I think we used to use the expo booth as a way to push people to our sessions, and now it's a little vice versa. Now we have to kind of push people to come to our booth. So, food for thought. Put in the chat. Come off mute. Show
Yeah.
your face. Yeah, Jacob, as
So
a
kind
I
of
share your sin then as
to
well.
second that, yeah, to like second what Katie said, I think that booths nowadays are more of like a branding exercise. So like if you will see me at like Directions or Summit, it's like you'll probably see somebody else from my team there because I am in my partner's sessions. It's like I'm attending, I'm asking questions. It's like I'm getting that FaceTime with them in their sessions. And then it's just like if they want to come back to the booth, it's like our account executive is there and will gladly show you a demo. But it's like I will be in the sessions, I will be on the floor actually just like talking with people. So it's just like I don't like to be tied to the booth in that way because I find that it's a good way to like show that like you're invested in the community and that like it's like a branding exercise as well. But it's like you definitely need to be attending your partner sessions and just like showing that like you are visible and you care. Because like sometimes it's like I'm one of the few like ISPs that are like in their sessions, or it's like I mean my session last week only like people attended. So it's just like this idea that it's just like it does need to, I mean it
You
was
had
the
a
morning of the
terrible
last day, but
slot.
it's
You
like
had a terrible slot.
yeah, I did. Yeah. So it's like, but it's just like to that point where it's like, I think it's like, it's free to attend a session. I mean, not free, but it's like, it takes only time to attend a session after the sponsorship and after paying for your ticket to be there. So yeah, I definitely agree with what both everyone has said. So
Yeah, no, and I think that comes back to what is your objective? You're like, I'm gonna be the fisherman, and then I'm gonna reel you in by having the sales guy, account manager in the back end really like seal the deal. Like know what people like we can't just invite everyone anymore, even though everyone wants to be at these things. Like strategically what makes sense and what are your roles within the event. I think those conversations have to be had when we can't invite everyone to the party anymore. You didn't miss anything, Katie. It was terrible. Well,
Sure,
you're
sure.
fine.
Well, I know a few of
uh,
my coworkers got to go to Summit last year and they manned the axe throwing booth. Oh my
uh,
word. That
oh
sounded so
wow.
exciting.
Or like to your point, Katie, it's like we didn't sponsor this year and it was just me for my company attending because it was
Yeah.
just like I could be able to like be more available to attend people's sessions and just like host a
Mhm.
partner dinner with like a couple of like target of our partners. So it's like, yeah, but
So
Yeah.
we also got some ideas for those who can't read the chat or listening to this later. Shame on you for not being live, but I'll cry myself to sleep and then I'll be okay. So one of the ideas that Anya said was, I used to do client dinners at events like Summit, Ask Guys Visa, sponsor bottle of wine, and all the clients would say cheers to them on social media to put their logo everywhere, help me pay my expensive restaurant bills. Love that. I think that's super clear, especially not surprised this is on yet, but to kind of get that whole social media going around there, or asking ISVs to split the cost of doing a case study or other joint marketing. I think that that's a great way to, it's win-win for both of you. The ISV is always looking for case studies, and the VAR is looking for case studies as well. So I think that's a fab way to get more people involved. Um, what about industry specific events? Danielle is asking. Are any of you
Yeah, I'll
those?
go ahead and speak up so Tanya will be happier with her the audience here. Because
Yes.
I did type that in when Katie was talking about how they're asking for more events. So I was just curious if, because what I was finding, especially when I was working at a company your size, is that people would start coming to me with all these other small events that they would find and they would be really interested in. But I'd be curious how maybe you're splitting your budget between dynamics and industry specific events.
Yeah, so at HSO we get one like one US marketing budget, but it's actually portioned out by, so we have 5 marketing leads, and within that whole amount, we each kind of get our own to run with. So TBD on how that's all like split up, but um, so so the industry marketing leads can, so there's 4 of them, they can, with that, whatever their budget amount is, can control how they want to spend it. So if it is like, maybe it's for manufacturing, it's like field service, east and west, right? So more like industry specific events, and then whatever else, vendors to support, you know, XYZ. Um, so I've seen a trend of more industry events, and I think that's a part because I've also helped plan a lot of smaller events this year, more intimate ones, and that seems like a trend, like a new trend. And I think it's about of people just wanting to like get out again and actually, get out of the office or their home office and get out there and be social and just learn from, not get out there. So I honestly, I think that's probably part of it. But it's probably, I think, when exploring options, I think, and you're trying to figure out how you're going to spend that budget, events can be, you know, prove a good ROI as long as, um, you do like
Yeah.
your pre and post event planning.
And I think that
So,
comes back to objectives again as well. Like
yeah.
you were saying, like you guys were saying earlier, in regards to, okay, who are we trying to get? What are we trying to get? What I've sometimes seen at industry specific events, it's more the project manager or someone. You have to be really careful of who the attendees are at those events, because sometimes it isn't the person who's going to be like, yeah, I need a new ERP and I'm going to switch that out for you. So I think you have to be mindful of that, but that comes back to the slush fund, the open conversation. I think all those kind of pool in together, and what's your strategy there. But smaller events you might have unlocked something, Danielle. So we will invite you back next year to tell us all about that, because we're always looking for panelists. Shameless plug on that one. So we are getting lots of comments. Yay. A new version of the Channel Marketing Academy. David mentions that I've always struggled with the sponsor sections. The conferences are really challenged not to put the competing sessions at the same time. As someone previously on the planning committee, it's always hard to prevent this. I get it, and I think it's to be mindful, and I think we have to do our job as marketers as well. As okay, we need a good hook, we need a session that people don't think that they're going to be sold to for an hour, they're actually going to get something out of it too. It has to be win-win. So I think that is on us to be aware of how the sponsor session fits into our strategy. Another question. other questions. And another one from Kate. How often are you reassessing the budget for inbound and outbound marketing activities? Everything is changing so quickly. Yes, Queen, everything is changing quickly. Um, so how often are you guys looking at your marketing budget? Is Katie from HSO, you mentioned you're going into annual planning. Anybody else? Are you looking at it more frequently now that we're in a brave new world?
I feel like we try to set our annual budget, but every quarter, if not more often, it's having to be reassessed because, to your point, everything is changing so fast. It is ridiculous. So yeah, it's you got to keep a close tab on it, and part of that is your revenue ebb and flow. You might have your annual plan, and then either you get extra money or you don't get as much as you expected, and to some extent, you gotta keep tabs on that throughout the year to make sure that you're kind of keeping that even keel.
Yeah, I think that that flexibility of like keeping you on your toes is so important, and especially in the brave new world that we are in. So
I
keep those
I
questions coming.
I
Yes.
will say, like, as soon as you hear like conversations, like there's worries about pipeline, it's like, oh, okay, this is like an indication I need to go, like, maybe start doing like a plan B, plan C
Yep.
budget. That way you're just
100%.
are ahead of it. But yeah, I monthly, if not even like a couple times a month, I'm in there being like,
Mhm.
okay, where are we at? How much have we spent? Where are we tracking? Um, yeah.
I'm gonna get on my soapbox for a second because this is near and dear to my heart. Um, I think we have to educate those in our sales people around us that it takes a long time for a sale to come through. We are talking about 12, 18-month sales cycles, and depending on the size of the deal too and stuff like that. So it might not affect us today, or don't get me wrong, I will take the cash on any day, but be mindful that I think when we're educating or setting our objectives, like we're not going to see more stuff closing tomorrow. And I think that is the long play, and that's harder to do as marketers, to be like, hey, what we're doing today, you're only going to see 12, 18 months from now. But it's to have that track record of, okay, this is what's been working in the past. Yes, we can turn this off today, but this is when it's going to affect it later on. And I think we'll be able to see like top of the funnel, like you were saying, Katie from Boyer, you can turn something off. Jacob, you mentioned it too with Google Ads. You can turn it off and you don't see the direct impact. And I think that is totally sane and normal, but is when you're looking, okay, I want this to close next month for the end of the quarter. That's where things are not going to happen, and people need to drink a glass of reality juice. But I will get off my soapbox now and let the
Well, I just want
others.
to add to that because I think that's, oh my word, yes, that's so very true because we have different marketing activities and like I mentioned, you might have them planned for a while and then someone's like, "Oh, pipeline's low. We got to close, X amount of business in 2 months." Okay, well, it takes, at least 3 months before we start to see any results. And then on the flip side of that, if you start a new program, sometimes they want to see results. You kind of have to set those expectations that, okay, you got to let it run for a little bit before you're actually going to see results. Please give me at bare minimum for any new program, 3 months, preferably six, preferably a year if I'm lucky. But, at least give me 3 months before you make any decisions because it's going to take time to get that funnel going again.
Yeah, it's not a pair of shoes, and I think that is one why we have the Channel Marketing Academy, but two, also it takes time to see the results and for things to change and for people to react. So yes, I agree with you. Do if we need to go to the mattresses on that one, I am here with you. On that note, I am going to take a short commercial break and say thank you to our CMA patrons. They're the ones who keep our lights on and allow this to be free. So a special thank you for our continued support from Dub, MSCW, Marketeeri, OMSI, Vicinity, UST Pay, and Partner Talks. You are well loved in our community, and thank you, thank you, thank you. Here is my shameless plug. If anyone would like to continue to support our community, we are going to put that link in the chat. It costs as much as one session, so think about all the stuff you've learned and all the sessions that are available to you. Please don't make me beg, but go check us out. It is not expensive for a year, and I promise worth your money. That's, you know, recorded now, so I can't take that back. Okay, now we are going to continue on with our conversation. And now, creativity under constraints. I know none of us like to be constrained, but sometimes budgets get the best of us, or you can't get as cute of a Chotsky as you would like to get. So, what are some of your best low cost plays that don't really feel like you're cheaping out? Like, are there any experiments that turn into repeatable campaigns? Is there anything there that you'd like to inspire us with? So, Katie from Boyer, why don't you kick us off there? Share your
Sure.
creative juices.
Well, honestly, one that is oddly helpful for us is webinars. I kind of would have felt like, post-COVID, people would be really sick of them, ready to get off of webinars. But what we've discovered is not so much webinar fatigue, so much as let's do them a little bit differently, and then it is working again. So a couple campaigns that we did that did really well, we focused on very targeted audiences, right? So for one of them, we were focused on on-prem software solutions like GP, SL, and we did a very targeted, we called it our Stay or Go campaign, based on a song that, I don't know, my boss at the time was liking a lot. So, but the idea being, okay, we had these live webinars every single month we had one for SL and one for GP. We ran them live on a monthly basis, and it was basically, okay, do you want to stay on GPSL? Are you ready to move? What does that look like in either situation? And we would get so many people coming to each of these webinars, and then they'd come again in a few months and bring a couple more people from their company. And then a few months later, they were actually ready to talk to us and move. So that was one that was relatively cheap because we just had one person on who had to be there given the same spiel, didn't have to prep for it because he'd done it, every month for 12 months. And so that was one that worked really well. Similarly, we did it was just supposed to be a chat, kind of like this one. It was on Copilot and Coffee. Let's give some initial thoughts on AI. What do we think of it? What do we love about it? What do we hate about it? How is Copilot working for you? Is it not working at all? Is it working great? We had over 100 people on there, which for our little company was a very large audience. We were ecstatic. And so we decided, okay, this worked really well. Let's do it again. So now we've done three of that, and then two of kind of a spin-off series educating on AI type of thing. And in both cases, it was like, okay, this was supposed to be just one casual one-off session, and it ended up being a little bigger thing. And it's gotten us some decent leads. So that was one thing. And I think in both of those cases, the big takeaway for us was being targeted, choosing a very specific audience so that the information they got was, much more geared toward them. It wasn't generic. It wasn't just a demo. It was something fresh and real, and not quite so structured, much more conversational and helpful for them. So double down on what's working for you. That was what was working for us.
And I think that is super important too, is we can all get generic information now. We have it at the tips of our fingers, but people are looking for that specific. So if you can go specific on something, do it. I think you hit something good, and I can't wait to have you back on to talk more about that on your successful, fabulous campaigns moving forward. And what about you, Jacob? What else have you seen as your scrappy but I look expensive marketing?
Yeah, absolutely. So to kind of go off of what Katie said, just like turning those webinars like into like LinkedIn content, like clips, like email nurture and like partner enablement. So it's just like look at like I guess like the webinars and content that you like already have and be able to like repurpose it for like different mediums. And I guess a specific example was at Partner and Vibe in January, there was another ISV who was like also targeting a VAR that like we were targeting. So we just took them out to dinner and just like split the bill. So it's like similar to like what Anya like we said earlier, where it's just like find, I guess, like other ISVs to like collaborate with. Like I know that there's like the Partner Supper Club where it's just like it's like three ISVs who just like they take their like target partners, like existing partners, customers like out to like dinner. So it's just like being able to just like find activities that like you can split the cost with like other people. And if yeah, so just like, and I mentioned earlier, just like not necessarily sponsoring the event, but just like I guess like setting up meetings like with your partners and like customers just like at the event, and instead of like actually just like paying for like the expensive like booths, because it's just like yeah. So
Yeah, I think it's finding ways to share the expenses with people, and how do you have that same experience. So another question that have come in, very excited about this. I'm assuming this is for you, Katie. Did you do anything specific, any specific marketing around the webinars that worked better? Is there anything you did differently there that you noticed that would help the audience?
I think for the Stay or Go session, we were actually targeting a lot of our own clients because we still had like at the time, I want to say 75% of our own clients were still on GP or SL. Now that's number has pretty much shifted complete opposite now. But so part of it was, marketing to our own clients, but also the fact that they were live for whatever reason, while the semi-live type of thing or recorded sessions is so much easier on the budget. The fact that we did them live and people could ask very specific questions, that seemed to be very helpful because, like I said, we'd had the one person on, then a couple months later, they come again and bring two or three people from their team, and then they'd all have questions. So I think that was one thing that helped. For the co-pilot and coffee one, we really didn't know what to expect for the first one. And so we did the good or bad, a little, hey, if you come, you get a Starbucks gift card. Okay, well, that bit us in a little bit when we got so many people coming, but also at the same time, it was kind of that little perk that people are like, oh, yay, I get free coffee and I'm going to get hear a fun session. And then they still came to the next session even without coffee. So you know that they still liked the conversation as well.
I think that's fab that you were able to keep that momentum going. Like, I'm all about bribery, whatever it gets them in the
Right.
door. And then after that, I think that's testament to you need to have quality to keep people there. And you also mentioned something else that was really cool is that, yeah, what we always talk about new potential and new clients. Like, yeah, I think we forget sometimes that the cheapest lists are the ones we already have internally and looking towards our clients and how can we upsell them. I I heard you slipper that one in, but I wanted to highlight it also because I think we
Yeah.
forget we are so used to getting that first deal in, but there's so much upselling to do as well in the ERP space that let's not forget about that when we need to grow our pipeline, and that comes in faster than a new deal too. So I will get back up off my soapbox and I'll say that. I am like watching the time fly by. So when you can increase spend, what do you get the most out of that you already have? Is it repurposing? Is it repackaging? Is there anything that you're doing that you're like, oh, this is already in a box, or you already have that bag and you just have to add new tissue paper in it? Is there anything around that you find works in a jiffy without having to recreate anything? Katie from HSO, I'm gonna throw this one over to you.
So certainly if there's opportunities to repackage what you already have, that's an easy win. Or for like my standpoint, if there's content or anything that we've invested in creating content wise, that's like maybe like horizontal in nature, if we can put like an industry spin on that to support our other, those marketing leads and those industries, that's of course like easy win. Or investing in making sure everything is personalized, right? If it's not already, but making sure things are shaped, by industry, by role, as well as having that horizontal message as well. Those are easy wins. So, and then also making sure that you are focusing on redistributing or distributing your content, like max out your channels and where you have access to right now. So instead of thinking like, oh, I don't have these, focus on what you do have and max it out. Put your content everywhere where you can, where it makes sense. Like make sure you're tapping into access that you have. And then of course, yeah, I mean, of course, there's going to be like the retargeting too. I mean, that's almost like a missed opportunity, and it can be, um, if we're just trying to save on save
No,
on
definitely.
spend, just retargeting and also, cross channels, right? Cross the channels that you already have access to. It's almost like, okay, instead of like focusing on your big wish list of what you wish you had, like just bring it in and be like, okay, this is what I have access to right now. This is all the greatness that I have or that I've spent time, money on to date. Now, how can I make the most of it? So it's just like almost like a reframe too.
Yeah. And to highlight what you said earlier as well, the point of like reuse it, spam it, show it everywhere. Just because we're fed up of it doesn't mean that everyone has already seen it. So I think it's a good reminder for myself, and I think for everyone out there, that just because I'm fed up doesn't mean the market is fed up. So yeah, like don't feel bad if you have to push something out that you've already pushed out. Chances are they don't remember it anyway, not because it wasn't fabulous, but because we have so much other stuff going on. And Anya is keeping me on task. And someone asked a question earlier that I forgot. I'm sorry, Greg. It was because it was too much going on. What percentage of total revenue are businesses spending on their marketing budget? I don't know if you're able to share a percentage, if it varies, scrappy versus non-scrappy. I don't know if anyone has a percentage that you're willing to share with us.
Yeah, I
About
saw that question in the chat. So I just did the math really quick. It's about 5% for us, but yeah.
yeah.
I would say if I'm doing math quickly, ours is around two, and like we're extra scrappy. I think that is where, not including salaries, but I would say it would probably be around 2% of our overall revenue budget. I don't know if that, I'm an ISV too. I don't know if that helps. Um, I don't know from a VAR perspective. Sorry, I don't know if you're a VAR or an ISV, Greg. So,
We're a VAR
thanks.
for about
Oh,
1%.
okay. So,
ISV, so yeah.
so now you have a range. So, we can go about three. Oh, three, and he's a VAR.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So yeah, you're doing like scrappy-esque. How about that, Greg? We depending on the month. So let's hope that helped. I am going semi-scrappy. Yes, we can, or semi-chic, whichever way you want to go look at it, half full, half empty. I am going to close this off because I'm already looking at the time. We have one final question. So I ask everyone to look into their crystal balls and look into the future and trends. Do you see this as a short-term problem, this budget reduction, or do you see this with AI that everyone thinks that, everything can be done with more with less, and this is the future of marketing? Um, Jacob, what do you think? What does your crystal ball say?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that like AI will like absolutely push marketing teams to become like leaner and more efficient, like especially around just like content production, like reporting and segmentation and like campaign execution. And I think now too, it's just like a Claude subscription, like a Chat GTP subscription is like only like $20 a month. And it's like you essentially like have that as like an assistant for you. But I don't think it like replaces like strategy positioning, like relationships or like the community building efforts, especially in like channels like Microsoft where like trust and ecosystem relationships relationships still drive like a huge amount of business, or like, and most people have like partner sourced revenue. But I think the marketers like who stand out will like probably be the ones who combine AI efficiency with like with like strong human judgment, empathy, creativity, and just like focus it on like, I guess, like being able to nurture your existing and new relationships better. So,
Strong human judgment. I will stop there. I think that is very, very
and
important.
empathy, yes.
Empathy, those are two that, are hard to find in robots. Katie from HSO, what does your crystal ball say?
Yeah, I feel like we're entering, it's more like do more with less. It's like prove more with less.
Mm.
Um, and I think we're always going to face budget conversations, budget cuts. But I think we're still going to be, expected high expectations, remaining accountable for revenue, um, and pipeline. So I think with just like knowing that, it's just when you enter in the phase where you're planning for the next year, it's just you get yourself ready, right? You kind of, like I said, maybe it's like you have a couple iterations of your budget, right? You can kind of start with like, this was my, if plan A gets approved, great, you can roll with that. And then as things, if you hit that, we have had that tough conversation, like, okay, yeah, we're going to have to start cutting. You're kind of already, you're just mentally prepared for it. And like, I use AI, yes, but I don't think it replaces anything, right? It doesn't replace like a great copywriter, right? It maybe helps me, a little bit be like from a productivity standpoint at this time, right? Which is great, but it's almost like the expectation where it's like, oh, you got that time back, and now you're filling it with other things too. But yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. And last but definitely last, Katie from Boyer, what does your crystal ball say?
Well, it's definitely not a short-term problem, nor is it a new problem. I think, marketing having to prove our worth is a never-ending problem, right? It's been here, whatever, 50 years ago. It's going to be here 50 years in the future. That's just kind of the nature of our business because we are, like it or not, we are kind of that overhead that people look at first when things get lean. I don't think AI has changed that. I think it's amplified it a little bit because all of a sudden every business is feeling the crunch all at the same time and feeling it hard. But I do think that's going to level out again. And I think part of that will be as we learn to use AI more efficiently, to what has already been said, doing more with less, figuring out how to do that, and just continually optimizing that and being more efficient in everything that we do. And I don't think it's necessarily all bad either because every time that we have to have these marketing budgeting talks, it forces us to look at our budget, to look at what we have, and really pay attention to, okay, what is really truly working? Let's be honest here. What are those nice to haves? What are the ones that are those must haves that are, really bringing in the revenue? And let's focus on doubling down on what's working the most.
Love, love, love. Thank you so much. We're at time. I would have chatted for another 45 minutes with you guys on how this can make it more exciting and how we can be scrappy but sleek at the same time. If you haven't signed up, please sign up for our last one before our summer break. We are going to be meeting in June on, I guess that's our segue to AI marketing tools and what you can experiment with. Thanks again to our panelists for being here. If you haven't already, go check out our website. We have all the past sessions there. If you guys found this one interesting, please share it with a friend. Sharing is caring. Thank you very much and have a great one, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. This was awesome. Have a good one. Where do you guys have to jump to other meetings?